In Los Angeles, the community of Watts is known for showing a city at its worst and its best. It's the place where two giant spires have stood the test of time. They're known as the Watts Towers, and they were built by hand. Now they're deteriorating, and John Blackstone shows us how scientists and art specialists are pushing the boundaries of technology to preserve them.
Gazing up at the Watts Towers in Los Angeles, visitors see a whimsical creation in iron and cement, embedded with broken cups, dinner plates, and soda bottles. But the towers, some more than 80 years old, are also riddled with cracks. Pieces have been falling off for years. Now, for the first time, a team of engineers and art restoration experts is trying to figure out how to save the towers. Scientific instruments are monitoring temperature, wind speed, even vibrations from passing trains.
We're measuring the overall motion of the structure and trying to tie that into the opening and closing of cracks. And we're doing that 200 times a second.
200 measurements a second?
Yeah, 200 measurements a second is what you need for fast events like wind gusts and earthquakes. This is where we captured our first earthquake.
Bob Nigbor, an engineer from UCLA, usually studies earthquake damage to buildings and bridges. But now he's trying to discover why the towers are cracking and why previous efforts to fix them have failed. The man who built this, what do you think of his creation?
You know, it's fabulous. He wasn't an architect, he wasn't an engineer, but he knew how things worked.
Simon Rodilla was a construction worker. From the 1920s to the early 1950s, he spent his spare time building the towers in his backyard. They soon became a point of pride in Watts, a neighborhood often associated with poverty and crime. Even in the Watts riots of the 1960s, Rodilla's towers were untouched. One of the things we see a lot here are pieces of 7-Up bottles.
Yes, they're all over the place. He chose 7-Up because it's green, it's got color.
Mark Gilbert is Director of Conservation at the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, which so far has invested $2 million searching for ways to preserve the towers.
It's not a museum piece, but it gets the same level of respect and care that we would any of the artwork we have at LACMA.
Somebody builds something in their backyard. Does it automatically become art?
If you get a response from it, it makes it art. Whether it's good art, that's another story. This is great art.
This is repair.
Frank Preuscher, the museum's senior scientist, has helped preserve such ancient treasures as the Sphinx in Egypt. Now he's searching for a new way to stop decay here.
It all boils down to why does it fall apart and what can I do against it?
The key to saving this art might lie in finding a particularly flexible material to permanently patch the cracks. It turns out the towers are like flowers, moving with the sun.
We've actually found that on a daily cycle, the whole tower actually moves about an inch to the north when the sun comes up, because it heats this side of the structure. And at the end of the day, when the sun goes away, it actually goes back to where it started, and it does that every day.
The towers don't just move, they move people with wonder. And successful restoration will mean Simon Rodilla's art will be living long into the future. For CBS This Morning, John Blackstone, Los Angeles.